Welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day. So we're going to take a look at the charts, and Bitcoin is setting up for another leg down over the weekend, it looks like. So we're going to take a look at that, and also the news of the day, which is inflation was high as expected. That's why markets haven't reacted terribly, because they were kind of expecting, investors were kind of expecting a higher inflation print. And until we get to the Fed meeting next week, we're not going to see a whole lot more of a reaction to that news. Markets were kind of flat on pre-market this morning, opened down quite, a little bit today, kind of rebounding somewhat, working into the close, just down a little bit across the board. NASDAQ down 1%, S&P down 0.5%, Dow Jones down 0.5%. And the big news is, obviously, markets were up a little bit, thinking that anytime there are peace talks, markets will rebound a little bit, thinking that maybe there'll be resolution to the conflict. And then when they find out there is no resolution, markets will sell off a little bit. So markets are highly reactive to any kind of news right now. With inflation rising and more companies pulling out of Russia, depending on the company, those withdrawals are going to be impactful to their earnings, which will eventually affect the stocks of those companies. So we'll just have to watch and see how that plays out in the near future, and what the Fed is going to do and how they're going to react in terms of Fed policy, interest rate policy going into next week. The EU has made some decisions that they're not going to mess with interest rates right now, but they are going to discontinue their QE program. European Central Bank. So interesting times. Let's take a look at the charts and see what's going on with Bitcoin. So why do I say Bitcoin is setting up for another drop coming into the weekend? This is Bitcoin on the hourly, and this price pattern that we've been watching here for the last couple of weeks, this has been how many days now? Let's see. We are it's about 49 days, 50 days plus or minus, that Bitcoin's been kind of going through this little sideways range pattern here. And last week, right around March 4th, price did kind of the same thing. It dropped down, bounced, consolidated, jumped up, rolled over, and dropped. So we've had a drop, a little bit of a consolidation, drop down, bounce up, roll over, and drop into a consolidation. So we're kind of following this pattern, and we've been tracking this, but on a smaller scale over here. So right now we would be probably in this area looking for maybe some more downside over the weekend. And this was last weekend. This is March 3rd, 4th right here, which would have been Friday, Saturday, coming into this area here that we're coming into now. So there is potentially going to be another leg down, but what we've seen is these lows have been getting higher, but the highs have not been getting higher. So this could potentially be a mini version of this, with another bit of a higher low put in, where Bitcoin continues to inch its way up. We'll take a look at it on a 4-hour. You can kind of see how this top, some people are looking at this as a falling wedge on the top here, but that's very subjective in terms of, how you draw these wicks and where price could potentially be going. We took a look at that yesterday. And same thing here, if you look at it on the wick lows and drawing into a conclusion here. Now, generally, a rising wedge might want to break up, right? But we are in a downtrend and a declining market. And with the Fed decision coming out next week, this could potentially, we looked at it yesterday, consolidate in this area, drop down here over the weekend, and then work its way back up, work its way back down, back up, down, down, and then ultimately break down. If we get a bad decision from the Fed next week, they decide to get really tough, raise rates 0.5 point, 50 basis points or whatever going into next week, you'll see markets react, and you could see something like that play out. And the question is, if you look at it on a daily, you kind of get the same kind of thing going on here. And the question is, where else has Bitcoin seen something like that? You had the falling wedge break up last time over here. Same thing in this area, kind of a falling wedge pattern break up a little bit. So where have we seen a rising wedge? You've seen it over in this area. The last time it was kind of right here where you had higher lows. This did have somewhat of a higher high pattern coming in right here, but it's still kind of like a rising channel that broke down, whereas this could be kind of a rising, more of a channel versus, if you bring this down a little bit here and put it on the close, it's more of a channel than anything else and could potentially break down. So those are some of the things I'm looking at there. And this is a very different cycle than 2017, 2018. I mean, this is typical bear market structure where you get these drops with big bounces, drops, big bounces, retracements as you go along, rolling over into more of a consolidation. And this is kind of what Bitcoin is experiencing right now. The interesting thing is you're getting these immediate drops and rises where price is rising and then immediately turning around on itself here over a day or two. This is on the daily now, Bitcoin on the daily. Price, rose up yesterday, immediately dropped back down today. Very interesting. So you've got short liquidations, long liquidations, and the big problem is there's not a lot of liquidity in the market right now, so it can be easily manipulated in either direction. And it's just, just a liquidity hunt going each way in terms of the market ranging right now. So not a whole lot of direction there. If you look at Bitcoin dominance has been somewhat on a rise here, where the altcoins are declining. So I know there's a lot of hope for an altcoin season. We may have potentially already seen the altcoin season. You'll see a few of them rip here and there throughout the day to just come out of nowhere. And look, it's a little bit bigger on the hourly. I mean, that's 16%, but even still not a clean rip. But some of the altcoins will just pop off here or there out of nowhere and then immediately retrace. But generally with the altcoin season, you're going to see all of the altcoins run all at the same time. And what we have been waiting for is that Bitcoin to retrace to that 618 to 702 coming off of this low here, but we may not have reached the low yet for any kind of a retracement, or this could be the attempt of Bitcoin to retrace, and it's just not getting there given the market conditions and all of the headwinds out there in the economy right now, kind of keeping things on the down, keeping things down and continuing to kind of trend down. And this area of consolidation here, waiting for some clarity and some certainty and some guidance, but overall kind of holding well in this environment. Overall, Bitcoin is down right now from the previous high, currently 43%. Typically, Bitcoin would be down 70 or 80% in a typical bear market. So still corrective territory, 53% on the last run. So there could potentially be some more downside here if we take a look at the moving averages, still below all moving averages on the daily. Price did break above the 50-day and then broke back down below it. And we're kind of testing. Let's take a look at it right here. Price is testing, if we go into the hourly, kind of testing that 100-day right now, still below the 50 and the 200. So until price breaks up above all these moving averages and finds especially this 50-day as support, then kind of hard to call any kind of a reversal of trend or reversal of the markets right now. And of course, still below the bull market support band. We can take a look at that real quick. And we've been, I didn't think, rejected off it here, just got a clear rejection off it there and just kind of trending down. So anytime Bitcoin, let's even take a look at it on the weekly, and we can see what Bitcoin has done on the weekly here. A rejection there, stayed below it, broke above here, support. But anytime it's rejected off of that bull market support band, a lot of times it'll go down and test, some more of these cycle lows in previous cycles. But again, a lot more institutional involvement than any time in the past. A lot of retail involvement, waiting for price to get back to certain levels before they're going to exit the market. And with that, it's going to be interesting to see, as we've been studying, if Bitcoin can break these lower levels. I do feel certain that we're going to go back down and test this $30,000 level again to see if it'll hold a support. If it does hold, then I think, this may be a macro range that Bitcoin just won't break for a while, with all of the adoption that we've seen lately and more adoption coming into the space. It could potentially hold this level. And of course, if not, it will go back and test that prior all-time high of 20,000. And we did see what happened in the pandemic when you had a black swan capitulation, what that looked like. Price got all the way down to that $4,500 level down in there, $4,500 level. So there is a potential for that to happen again if really bad news breaks out, given the World War III breaks out and everybody's involved and that escalates into a major conflict. You'll see a coronavirus March 2020 pandemic kind of a black swan sell off, and that's where your real opportunities are, right? So this range right here, I know it's frustrating a lot of people, but if price breaks down and tests these lower levels, it's just an opportunity to get in. The question is, are you going to buy when it gets down here, because it will test that level, or it could just break right on through if something bad happens. So you'll just have to make those decisions when you get there and determine whether it's going to bounce and retrace or if it's going to break through and go lower. And then of course, that would be the time to dollar cost average. If price breaks down below this level, you could scale in your entries as price drops below there, because certainly if price goes below 30,000, it's definitely going to come back up. Right now we're rejecting off of this $45,000 range. So, it seems that that's a tough level to get above right now. And of course, our recent high is 69,000. So we know that that's a big range for Bitcoin, between 30 and 70,000 basically to range in, and it could do that for quite a while until we get certainty and clarity and get more capital into the space. So these are the things I'm looking at today. I hope this video helps you. I will see you on the next video. Have a great day.